All right, welcome into this edition of the Huddle Up Podcast. I am your host, Taylor Sharp, and today I want to look at some quarterbacks around the NFL, rookie quarterbacks that being, and maybe their chances of starting week one in the NFL. Now, I think there's a couple that could start, later in the season, but as far as week one goes, let's look at the guys in the first round first, okay? Obviously, Cam Ward, this one's going to be quick. The Titans had the number one overall pick. Word was they got a couple calls from a lot of different teams about potentially trading that number one overall pick. They said, no, Cam Ward is our guy. Make no mistake about it, Cam Ward will be the opening game starter for the Tennessee Titans. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this one. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Now, the other first-round quarterback was Jackson Dart. If you remember, the Giants had a pick inside the top 10. They stayed inside the top 10, did trade back a little, but they trade back into the first round in the 20s to take Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. Now, that's intriguing because in the offseason, the Giants signed not one but two veteran quarterbacks. So right now on the New York Giants roster, you have Russell Wilson, you have Jameis Winston, and you also brought back Tommy DeVito. Pair that with Jackson Dart, that's four quarterbacks on the roster. I don't think there's any way Tommy DeVito makes this team. They may keep him around as a practice squad player, a guy to lift morale. I mean, fans in New York fell in love with him a year ago, but realistically, I don't think that Tommy DeVito is going to be able to compete with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart. Word is the Jameis Winston experiment in New York is going about like you'd expect it to go. You'll see some flashes in training camp, and then, last week, the first rep in OTAs, what happens? Jameis Winston throws an interception because, well, that's what Jameis Winston does. This is a two-headed race between Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart. I personally believe they did not bring in Russell Wilson to sit him on the bench. I think Russell Wilson's going to be the starter for this team, but there's a lot of noise coming out of Giants OTAs that Jackson Dart looks really good. He's already has this leadership mentality, this presence out there on the field that teammates are really gravitating towards. So don't be surprised if you see Jackson Dart early. I'm not necessarily saying week one, but this could be one of those things where you let him kind of, get the feel of things in the NFL first. Maybe Russell Wilson starts week 3, 4, 5, and then after that, after the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you insert a Jackson Dart. I could totally see something like that happening. I would maybe be in favor of something like that happening because I think Russell Wilson, kind of a safe veteran option at this point in his NFL career, right? He kind of went in and stabilized things for the Pittsburgh Steelers after he returned from his injury. Not the same player he was when he led the Seattle Seahawks to 2 Super Bowls, but he is still a solid player in this league, a veteran, solid presence in that locker room. But I think that Jackson Dart could bring this team to a whole nother level. You look at it, they have weapons. They have a Jalen Hyatt. They have a Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy's back at running back. I mean, this is a team that they have a few weapons on offense. If you can get a quarterback that could spark it, maybe give you a little bit of a fire in that offense, get those playmakers going, we'll see what the Giants can do. Obviously, they're in a division with the Philadelphia Eagles, but outside of that, you have the Washington Redskins, who were really good under Jaden Daniels in year one. Was that a fluke? We'll find out. Will Jaden have a little bit of a sophomore slump? I don't think so, but if he does, the Giants are right there because I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be very good. So you may not be able to win that division with Philly in it. Could you get a wild card spot, though? That's something that's potentially up for grabs. As far as the guy who, outside of Cam Ward, I think has the best chance of starting week one is New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shuck. So a lot like the New York Giants trading back up for Jackson Dart, there was a lot of talk about maybe the New Orleans Saints being that team to trade back up in the first round for a Jackson Dart. They really liked Dart. He was high up on their draft board, but the New Orleans Saints, credit to them, stuck to their guns. Word was Tyler Shuck was one of their favorite quarterbacks in the draft. They stayed where they were. They were able to get Shuck at 40 overall. I like Tyler Shuck. He's 6'5". He's played a lot of college football. Now, he's been hurt a lot, but you go look at last year at Louisville, his final season in college football, when he was healthy throughout the entire season, he had a nice year. He's a strong kid. He can run a little bit too. I mean, you hear 6'5", 225 pounds with a big arm. Okay, he's not that mobile. No, Tyler Shuck can run a little bit. It's part of the reason why he got hurt at Texas Tech. They had him running the ball a lot. Now, I think the Saints are going to have pretty good running backs. I don't think they're going to ask him to run a ton, but I think Tyler Shuck, this is his job to lose. Coming into OTAs, it was Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener, who were both there a year ago. First day of OTAs, what happens? Jake Haener leaves with an oblique injury. Now, it's not something that's going to keep him out all season long, but he's going to be out multiple weeks. I think he was maybe the third guy in this quarterback competition going into OTAs. Anyways, now with that oblique injury, I think that's it for Jake Haener. As a matter of fact, not only do I not think Jake Haener is going to win the starting quarterback job, I think he's going to fight for a roster spot because they brought in Hunter Deckers, a tryout player from Iowa Western. He was at Iowa State. If that name sounds familiar to you, he was the quarterback that got in trouble for sports betting while he was on the team at Iowa State. He left school, wasn't able to play, went to Iowa Western for a year, and did a really nice job there at that program. The Saints brought him in. He is there for OTAs. He's a big kid as well, about 6'3", 220. So there's a chance Jake Haener doesn't even make this team. As far as the first-team quarterback situation for the New Orleans Saints goes, though, I think it's Tyler Shuck. But the word is that Shuck and Rattler both look really sharp at OTAs. Now, they're not having a pass rush or anything like that, but it's always better to hear, hey, the competition's tough because both guys are looking good instead of, oh, well, Shuck sucks a little bit less. We're going to go with him, right? It's always good to hear that both of your quarterbacks are doing well, but I think they're ultimately going to roll with Tyler Shuck. You always hear, oh, the New Orleans Saints haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round since Archie Manning. Yeah, but they got Shuck 40th overall. He is still the highest drafted quarterback in New Orleans since Archie Manning way back when. They invested a lot of draft capital in him. This was the guy that Kellen Moore, first-year head coach, wanted to go get. He got his guy. You have him. Doug Nussmeier is going to be the offensive coordinator. Scott Tolzien, a former NFL quarterback, he's the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. This coaching staff is built to help out the quarterback. Bring in a young guy who's played a lot of college football. Tyler Shuck's already 26 years old, so he's a little bit more mature than most of these rookies. I think Tyler Shuck will be the guy in New Orleans week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. Okay, now before we get out of here, I want to look at, in my opinion, the most intriguing quarterback battles in OTAs throughout the entire NFL. And believe it or not, it's the Cleveland Browns. And not because, oh, the room's atrocious, it's the Cleveland Browns. Everyone looks to see what kind of beautiful disaster they are. You have Joe Flacco, the 40-year-old, who has just kind of bounced around and been a steady presence for a number of teams, including the Cleveland Browns very recently. You brought in Kenny Pickett because I think you brought him in to be your starter, but you drafted Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon in round 3, and you were the team that finally pulled the trigger on Shedeur Sanders after his draft fall in the 5th round. Both of those guys look really good in camp. Obviously, Shedeur is going to have a bigger arm. Your more traditional passer. Dylan Gabriel, a smaller guy, but can move around a little bit. He's got a pretty strong arm as well. So both of those guys looked really good in rookie minicamp by all reports. They're out there at OTAs. Kenny Pickett, he's had up and downs, but I think you brought him in as a veteran. Look, he's 15-10 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. That experience is something that Gabriel and Sanders simply don't have. I think there's a chance that Gabriel or Sanders does not make this team. Because you have Deshaun Watson still rostered. You're still paying him. You're not getting anything out of him. But he had that Achilles injury. He's likely out for the entire season. I think you're going to go with Flacco, Pickett, and one of the rookies. I don't think you brought in Flacco or Pickett just to cut them. No, you obviously could if Sanders and Gabriel both explode onto the scene, have really good jobs. You could say, okay, Flacco and Pickett, one of you will stay, be the starter, and let the young guys battle it out for that number 2 spot whenever you think those guys are ready. Hell, step them in there, let them take over as a starting quarterback. But what I think is more likely to happen is that one of these rookies does not make the team. Or could they be traded? If they could be traded, I think it's Shedeur Sanders. Just because based on name alone, Shedeur Sanders has more trade value. Also, you drafted Gabriel in the 3rd round. Shedeur Sanders didn't go till round 5. More draft capital was spent on a Dylan Gabriel. I think there's a better chance they keep him around. There's a chance they keep both of them around. Hell, they may not keep either of them, but that is a job in Cleveland that I am watching. Flacco, Pickett, the veterans. Flacco's 40. Kenny Pickett's been in the league for 3 years now. And then you got the 2 rookies that are really, really talented in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. All right, look, that's kind of my thoughts on the quarterback situations as far as rookies during OTAs. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more. Jalen Milroe in Seattle, I don't think he's going to beat out Sam Darnold. I mean, there's a few more, but those were kind of the ones I wanted to highlight as far as rookies who I think could potentially have a chance to start week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. That's going to do it for this episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. Again, I am your host, Taylor Sharp. If you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, comment. Love to interact with everyone. And we'll see you next time here on the Huddle Up Podcast.